Well, indeed, it feels quite empty without our doctoral graduates here. So I hope they can hear me. They're just outside the door. To say distinguished guests, family and friends, and of course our graduates outside. And Christo, you are online. I see your picture. Hello, nice to see you. We say welcome this evening to the 2022 Da Vinci Institute Doctoral Graduation Session. It is indeed exciting. It's the last time you will be called Mr. or Mrs. or Ms. or however you prefer to be called. And we will now welcome you in with your guests. So I'm just asking the guests and the students, please remember not to use flash photography because we do have our photographers here with us. And also to please not leave your seats during the ceremony. If you are desperate to go, there are bathrooms on each side, but it shouldn't be too long in terms of sitting down. So we do indeed hope that you will be able to sit through it because it is a little bit difficult to move around. And then to just check that cell phones are turned on to silent. And most importantly, to enjoy yourselves and to shout, scream, ululate, and celebrate with your remarkable achievement this evening. So I'd like you to please rise, those that are here, and the students have already arisen. As I said, it's just a few people here, and those online, you are not required to rise. And the academic procession will come in. Please remain standing until our chairperson is seated after opening the ceremony. Before you are seated, I would like to call on the chairperson of the Da Vinci Institute Senate, Dr. Franzel de Plooy-Cilliers, to officially open this graduation ceremony.
By the power vested in me as the chairperson of the Senate of the Da Vinci Institute for Technology Management, I hereby declare this congregation a lawful gathering of the Da Vinci Institute for Technology Management. Thank you.
I'm going to do things slightly differently this time around because of the fact that, sorry, you may all be seated, apologies. Because Prof. Anderson is going to be introducing each of the graduates and their guests, I am going to ask him to come up to first introduce our community guests and to introduce our graduates so that they can be sitting when they hear what I want to say about Prof. Anderson. So he looks a bit worried. But it's an important message that I would like them to be able to also be present for, and I know they are standing outside anxiously waiting to come in. So I would like to call on the Executive Chairperson of the Da Vinci Institute to come and introduce our students and their families this evening, and then I will introduce him to you. Thanks, Prof. Anderson.
Thank you very much, Dr. Coonan. So I will start by calling on the respective students to join their families, and the first student that I would like to call is Runel Berger. Can Runel join us? Runel, please take a seat. Runel is joined by two colleagues, a family and a colleague, Deline Berger and Lehandri Fick. Thank you for joining Runel on this special occasion, and welcome. The next colleague is Cornelia Carol September. She could join us. Connie, welcome to this very, very important occasion for you this evening. And I also want to join a welcome to you, Wesley September and Shirley Lloyd. Welcome to your colleagues also. Dr. Lloyd is also the supervisor of Runel Berger, so she's got a lot of energy this evening represented here. The third student is Ntombizodwa Mngwani, if Ntombi could join us. And I would like to make a special reference to this evening to Mr. Sam Mngwani, as well as her belated mother, Cynthia Mhlangwani, to acknowledge her presence here also tonight. I also want to welcome Ntsiki Mkhomezulu. I also want to welcome Nomsa Mngwani. I also want to welcome Mikateku Mhangwani. And I also want to welcome Bez Mkhangwani. Thank you for all these colleagues joining Ntombazitwa at a very important event also for you in your life, Ntombi. The fourth student that I want to welcome tonight is Bongani Mwale. Bongani could join us. Bongani is accompanied by Nomkhebu Mguni, as well as Samkelu Mwale. Thank you for joining Bongani in this event this evening. Very welcome. The fifth student is Nompumelelo Yolen Nkabinda. Nompumelelo, you can join us. And Nompumelelo is accompanied by Nhlanhla Nkabinda. Welcome to the two of you, and for coming to the closure of this journey of your PhD also tonight. Welcome. The next student is David Nkwana, if he can join us. And David is joined by Dina Nkwana, as well as Daniel Shadung. Welcome to the three of you to this occasion. Then we also want to welcome Tadi Daniel Rampai to join us as this next graduate. And Daniel is accompanied by Mapula Rampai, and Kiamokhetswe Rampai. Welcome to both of you accompanying Daniel tonight. And then we want to welcome Giselle Cindy Williams. And Giselle is accompanied by Caden Calhoun. Welcome to the two of you. And then there's one student joining virtually, which is Christu Abram Skepers. Christu, welcome also to this event, and thanks for joining us online, which is a new reality that we are still trying to get used to. So just in a few words, I want to say welcome to all the energy that you bring to this occasion. And as you would have seen in my message, thank you for allowing yourself the opportunity to share your gift with the world. A PhD in particular does not belong to you. It's your gift to the world. It's a message and hopefully an argument that people would want to entertain and that people would want to spend time with the originator of that argument. I would have hoped that in your journey you would already surrounded you by a network of knowledge workers, people who will cherish your mind, people who may be fascinated by the challenges that you may pose to them, people who may differ with you and may vehemently disagree with you. All of that is important for the PhD. And I hope that this is just the starting point of your journey into the world for however long you will be allowed to have this voice. But please share it. It's a gift to the world. Welcome to your graduation.
Thank you very much, Prof. Anderson, and welcome. As I said outside, which I hope you heard, this evening will be the last time you will be referred to as Ms., Mrs., Mr., or however you have been referred to. And, well, you see, Connie, I told you. Connie asked me earlier, are we allowed to be excited? So some people don't understand why we do these intimate graduations. For us, it is about being able to stand up to the promise that each and every student is a unique individual that should stand at this moment and be proud alongside yourselves and alongside those that helped you on this journey, and that you are able to sing, ululate, shout, scream, take as many photos as you want. So please, no running across. I want you to celebrate the moment, to celebrate it alongside your loved ones, many of whom have joined us online. So please feel free to shout and scream online as well. We might not hear them here, but their voices will carry over, and they certainly will. So you indeed are our most distinguished guests, but I'd like to make mention of a couple of others that are in our midst. So first of all, to my left here is the chairperson of the Da Vinci Institute Senate, Dr. Franzel de Plooy-Cilliers. It is the highest academic decision-making body of the Institute, and she chairs that. Next to her is Professor Ben Anderson, the executive chairperson of the Da Vinci Institute. Next to him is the chairperson of council, Mr. Sachaba Motsiloa. And Sachaba also had a birthday yesterday, so I say happy birthday, Sachaba. I won't sing because I shouldn't even sing in the shower, but we wish you a year of many co-created happiness realities. Can I say? That did not make grammatical sense, but nonetheless, we want you to co-create much happiness and success in your life, Sachaba. And next to Sachaba is the chairperson, the CEO of the Da Vinci Institute, Professor Harbia Klopper, and alongside Prof. Klopper is Louise Fuller, who's the registrar. So what will happen is that your name will be called later on, and you will come up. We will then announce your name. You will not be called doctor at that stage, after which your video will play that you have done to, as Prof. Anderson said, share your gift with us. And after that, we will then, you will then walk across to the first marker here, where you'll smile at the photographer and then go towards Louise, where you will be capped. And I will be speaking at this time, so please just ignore me as I speak about some of your work, which has been enthralling to be able to read through, but also just to really take that moment. If your family members want to take photos, please feel free to do so as well. I would also like to welcome our President of the Da Vinci Institute, Professor Edward Kisveta, the Commissioner of the South African Revenue Services. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he will be here in a few moments. He's been delayed, and his wife has joined, Mrs. Frances Kisveta, as well as Mr. Cameron Law, who's also joining. And then we're indeed delighted to have one of our Da Vinci partners with us, and that is Dr. Frick Landman, who has come in to join us. Dr. Landman, thank you so much for your continued co-creation with us at the Da Vinci Institute. So I'm sure you want me to get to the exciting part of the procedures. And I would now like to, I said I would like to reintroduce Prof. Anderson, and it's because he's going to be giving you a few words of inspiration now. And what I wanted to say was that at Da Vinci we speak about co-creating. So tonight I'm doing a little bit of Latin, and please, I know Dr. Lloyd, you have quite extensive knowledge of it, so you may correct me from the front. The word co, or the prefix co in Latin, it speaks to something that is very important to us, and that is when we speak about together in. And even in English, in the 17th century when it was introduced, it spoke about taking in or together, mutually and in common. So for us, co-creation is about a mutual engagement and a cooperative engagement alongside our fellow Da Vincians. I know there are times in a doctoral journey where it doesn't feel like one is co-creating, but you feel rather isolated on the journey. But the reality is that amongst yourselves, you've had supervisors and co-supervisors who we thank and we acknowledge after each of your titles for the hard work and dedication that they put in to your journey. You also have your loved ones that sit alongside you and those that join you in absentia, and some from up above, as we heard this evening. And every single one of those energies help to shape and form the person you are today and the graduate you are this evening. And that is no mean feat, because a doctoral degree is something quite unique and dynamic, because you are giving new knowledge to this world. And that is indeed a gift that you are sharing. So I want to say that Prof. Anderson, as the founding member of the Da Vinci Institute, one of the key tenets that he speaks to is about co-creation. He pushes cooperative engagements to ensure that we learn to really do things together, and that is the way that we will influence humane and sustainable societies. I now introduce to you Prof. Ben Anderson formally to come and give you a keynote address. Thank you, Prof. Anderson.
Thank you very much, Marla. So one always thinks, what would you talk about at an occasion like this with so much conceptual energy around you? And I thought, well, let's start by asking, how do we think around the construct of innovation? As Da Vinci should be involved in all matters innovative. So as the Institute, we have been playing I think, a significant role in contributing to the ISO standard on innovation management over the past 4 to 5 years. And I want to share with you when we started in a collective cooperative engagement at ISO of 53 countries across the world. The first definition attempt for innovation was that innovation is the successful use of a changed or a new product, a process, or a service that creates value. And that it's an outcome in itself. So that was the first attempt. 4 years later, we ended up with innovation is a new or a changed entity, realizing or redistributing value. Play with words, and as PhDs you can appreciate this in Tombi. Play with words. Now what does that mean? Homo sapiens, as represented by our forefathers, our ancestors, for the past 200,000 years, did many innovative things. But there was a particular innovation that Homo sapiens started with 12,000 years ago. And I wish to have quizzed the PhDs on this tonight and say, what do you think would be that significant, life-changing, changed and new outcome that realized value? Would have been interesting if we sat around a fire and heard what your thoughts would be. But that innovation, 12,000 years ago, started in the agriculture sector. But that innovation, redistributing value, had actually very little to do with agriculture. But it had everything to do with politics. So 12,000 years ago, you and I, Homo sapiens, decided or came to the new knowledge that we can create an outcome that has an impact on society. We realized we can domesticate wild animals. We don't need to be nomadic necessarily. We can stay put, and we can actually also create crops. We can domesticate the animals, the fauna and the flora, and we could stay put. But in doing so, and by not moving nomadically from one place to another in all circumstances, they needed administrators. So the notion of ownership, in a way, was ignited by the idea of domesticating the fauna and the flora and saying, this is my land, this is my place. And to keep that system evolving and redistributing that value and redirecting it, these administrators had to write down this piece of land and this piece of space belongs to Ntombi on this date. And you dare not trespass because this is my goats grazing here and this is my crop. And that evolved as an innovation. It met all the criteria for modern day ISO innovation standard. And the end result, 12,000 years later, of that innovation, today shows up as politics. And I wonder if you, as a knowledge worker, can reconsider the notion of politics with its origins in innovation. And to what extent is that innovation still adding value as what it was intended as an innovation? How far have we pushed with domesticating and evolving the notion of the fauna and flora as being dictated now by us? To a large extent, before the 12,000 years, as nomadic people, we moved from one area to another. We left the pastures, it revived, and we moved on, and we may come back, but we were ever moving. But then we stayed put and said, no, 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 I will use this land to my benefit. That begs the question, having been an innovation 12,000 years ago, is it still an innovation? And I wish we could have a discourse around that. Maybe boring to some people, but indeed conceptually challenging. Is politics still an innovation? You've just completed your thesis, and hopefully you presented an argument to society. Is that an innovation that is adding value? And will it be true now and for the years to come that that innovation will evolve in itself? I take pride in the fact, if I may, that what is happening at the Institute, to a large extent, is still very much what my PhD was about. I was curious on a simple but important matter, which was the interest of working adults in a post-apartheid system. I think some people would have thought, well, how simple could that be? But when we started to look at comparisons to post-struggle eras globally, we saw an interesting movement and interesting innovations that emerged to bridge the gap in a post-revolution state for discarded members of society. And the challenge was, how do we create a product or a service that will be new or changed from what was real until that period of time? And I'm talking about the year 1999. We're in the year 2022. And I often challenge the colleagues, to what extent is the Institute keeping this as an innovation? And it may be true, and maybe in the experience of some of you, it may be true to say, well, this is not an innovation anymore. It's not adding value as it should. Well, then we have to revisit it, and then we have to say it to each other. Just in the same way as we should ask ourselves, is politics still an innovation? Because if it's not adding and redistributing value, then it lost its shine and its meaning as an innovation. So that applies to me, and it applies to each of you who presented an argument to society. You should keep that argument alive and true to its nature as an innovation. For some, your argument may run for the next 20 and 30 and 40 and 50. Remember, politics is running as an innovation for 12,000 years. How long is your innovation going to run? That would be an important question that you must decide. How long do you want it to run? How long do you want it to add value to a broad as possible part of society? For as broad as possible a representation of Homo sapiens. My wish for all of you is that you embark on this journey today. You've done the groundwork. You've been recognized for the arguments that you've put forward. Let us not let it become stale as politics have become stale. I can be honest in saying it publicly. I don't need politicians in my life. I don't need somebody to tell me why must I have clean water and how it should work, or how should the road infrastructure work, or how should the taxes look. I think as a cooperative engagement of knowledge workers, we should envisage a new or a changed entity that will add value that may not be called politics in the future. Similarly, for your own argument, let it be renewed, even after tonight, so that it can serve the purpose of adding value and redistributing value to society. Welcome to your graduation and to what should be a great achievement, not just in your family or in your circle of friends, not just in your local community, but within the global space. If your argument cannot excite people across the globe, your thesis needs a revisit tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Anderson, for that address. Prof. Kisveta has joined us, so we did indeed welcome you, Honourable Commissioner, Mrs. Frances Kisveta as well as Mr. Cameron Law. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. So we will now have the keynote address by Prof. Kisveta. And so I want to give you his bio shortly, but I want to start off by saying one thing that I've learned, and it was a saying I once saw and I loved it, and it certainly resonates. It says, a good leader leads the people from above them. A great leader leads the people from within them. No truer words could be spoken than that about you, Commissioner, I will call you this evening, Commissioner Kisveta, because you are somebody who truly speaks to what I spoke to earlier tonight, which is about co-creating alongside those that are within your organization, as well as those within society. Edward rejoined as SARS Commissioner on the 1st of May 2019. I'm sure many of you know. But what some may not is that he'd formerly served as the founding group executive of the SARS Large Business Centre and High Net Worth Unit. He also was the SARS Chief Operating Officer and Deputy Commissioner during the period 2004 to 2009. From 2010 to 2016, he was the Group Chief Executive for Alexander Forbes Group Holdings, where he successfully turned the company around and it was listed on the JSE. Prof. Kisveta has held senior executive roles at multiple organizations, some of which include First Rand Banking Group and Eskom. Most recently, he's managed his own investments and served on various boards, which are vast and numerous. He relinquished these external roles when he took on the position to help our nation as the SARS Commissioner in 2019. I'm sure many of you will agree when you see the changes that have happened within the organization, that when Prof. Anderson speaks of innovation management, you, Commissioner, have certainly lived up to innovation management, not an easy task in something like our revenue services. But alas, you have done so. But it is because of what I circled earlier and said that a good leader leads the people from above. You are not a good leader, but rather a great leader, because you lead the people from within. You empower people, and that is how organizations that you influence continue to flourish and to grow. Indeed, an honor to be presenting here this evening, and that is the Commissioner of the South African Revenue Services and the President of the Vinci Institute, Professor Edward Kisveta.
Good evening. Professor Ben Anderson and your academic team, also the chair of the Da Vinci Council, my friend and colleague. I've just demonstrated that I'm completely incapable of managing my own diary. Apart from many other challenges, including traffic and load shedding, I honestly did think it's 6 for 6:30, Professor Anderson. So I'm not sure whether I should start with my prepared speech or talk to you about innovation. Maybe I'll find a way to weave some of that in later. But it's my privilege, as always, and an absolute pleasure to present a keynote address to the special graduation ceremony of the Da Vinci PhD graduates. Let me ask you, how many times during your studies have you felt like giving up? How many times in life have you felt a sense of helplessness, a sense of hopelessness, or even a sense of despair? If you live a fairly normal life, as I try to do, I'd venture to say that most, if not all of you, would have had such a moment at least once during your study, and often in your life. In fact, one or the other among you this evening, as I speak, may be feeling a sense of despair or helplessness right now. Why then are you still here? Why have you not given up or given in? This is exactly the question Viktor Frankl asked as he observed the tremendous suffering of his fellow prisoners by the Nazi officers when he spent over 3 years in 4 different concentration camps. Over this period, he himself lost his father, his mother, and his brother, who were brutally murdered by the Nazi regime. He later learned that he had lost his wife, who worked under despicable, indescribable conditions in the trenches, and finally succumbed at a young age of 50 to typhus. He personally had to endure tremendous suffering. So why did he not give up or give in? Well, Frankl was a psychiatrist. His training and observations led him to believe that human suffering in and of itself is meaningless. That's a bold conclusion to come to. He says human suffering is meaningless in of itself. Whatever meaning it acquires is the meaning we impose on it and how we choose to respond to it. While struggling to survive in the Nazi camp, drawing from his own experiences, Viktor Frankl concluded that it is through the search for a meaningful life that individuals can endure and overcome suffering. For Frankl, meaning came from 3 possible sources. 1, purposeful work. 2, love. And 3, the courage in the face of great difficulty. Much closer to home, our own beloved Tata Madiba, during the Rivonia trial, shared these historical words that lives on forever. During my lifetime, I have dedicated myself to the struggle of the African people. I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and achieve. But if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die. Over 27 years and enduring great hardship and pain, as well as separation from his loved ones, he remained resolute, dignified, and never gave up on this ideal, including the willingness to make the ultimate sacrifice. Now allow me to talk a little bit about my own context as the Commissioner of the South African Revenue Service. As far as the degree of sacrifice, mine pales into insignificance compared to the indescribable conditions under which Frankl did his most defining work and under which Mandela tirelessly and selflessly lived his life. But in many ways, my work is thankless. I take abuse all the time. You just have to follow my Twitter feed. My own family and loved ones pay a heavy price. I'm thankful to have them here this evening. The conditions under which our work currently at SARS is done is far from ideal. So when I become frustrated, as I do because I'm only human, and tired about the context within which I do my work and lead the work of SARS, I often feel like giving up. So when I do become frustrated and tired about the context in which I do this work, the examples of Frankel and Madiba and many others strengthen my own resolve not to give up or to give in. When I'm asked, as I am often asked directly, what difference do you think you can do, you can make, in a society where there is so much corruption? Corruption that is often sponsored by senior government officials and members of the political elite. What difference do you think you can make? When unscrupulous businessmen collude with politicians to entirely erode not only our economic well-being, but more importantly, our psychosocial, our emotional well-being, and destroy the fiber of our society. A society, by the way, a democracy, for which many paid the ultimate sacrifice. Why do you collect taxes, I am often asked, and then hand them over to be squandered through corrupt procurement practices, poor execution, or wastage? Let me say, I understand the level of disgust, the level of disappointment and despair among many South Africans who simply want to see the fruits of our beloved democracy being delivered and the material conditions of their life being changed. I am one of them. This is what we fought for, what we struggled for, what we still continue to work for. And it seems as if it is continuously eluding us. So I understand and share the frustration. In many ways, the frustration has justifiable cause. People's confidence in government is low. The material conditions of the most vulnerable in society are largely unchanged. High youth unemployment, with little prospect of change in the short term, is a ticking time bomb. We appear to be losing the fight against crime that continues to erode economic growth and our social fiber. The social contract between the state and its citizen in many ways are broken. I'm sorry if there are government officials in the room. Firstly, so why do I do what I do, you may ask? My family asks me that all the time. Firstly, I remain inspired by the life and works of the Mandelas, the Tambos, the Sisulus, and my own dear Uncle Kathy, Ahmed Katrada, with whom I've had the inordinate privilege to work. I remain resolute in the pursuit of the SARS mandate. I remain inspired by the promise of our democracy, the indescribable sacrifices of many. I draw my own resilience from the ideals expressed in the preamble of our Constitution to heal the divisions of the past, to improve the quality of life of all citizens, and building the foundations of a just democracy and an open society. I then look past the prevailing circumstances that threaten to discourage, distract, and derail us in general, and frustrate me in particular. When we become discouraged, we draw inspiration, knowing that our work in SARS is transformative. We see the face of an old gogo who would be destitute without the monthly social pension. I see a young single mother who is able to keep her children from certain starvation were it not for the grant she gets every month. I see a young boy and a girl child able to go to a safe and equipped school. No child should lose their life in a toilet. I see us being able to employ teachers, many who are committed and do their work selflessly. I see a frontline health or social worker able to bring healing and comfort to many. This is what our work enables. And this is what inspires me. This keeps us resilient when times are tough. And in the words of Madiba, the greatest glory in living is not in failing, but in rising every time we fail. As far as I know, it is only human beings that can ask what I call the hard questions. Let me share with you two of those hard questions. One, who am I? And two, why am I here? I don't think our dog get up in the morning and ask, why am I here? They're waiting there for their next meal. Having a sense of how you respond to these questions will become a source of your own inner strength and resilience when everything else seems to fail and fall around you. So who am I? This is a question of what you stand for, not what you do or what you have. Too many of us define ourselves by what we do or what we have. Our titles, our designations, what hangs on the wall in terms of our accomplishments. But that is not who we are. What we have and what we do does not define us. This is a question of what I stand for. You are not your degree. You are not your professional designation or job. You are not your material possessions. You are certainly not the identity in your passport. Be clear where you stand. What you stand for in life is more important than where you stand in life. If you stand for nothing, you fall for anything. So who am I? In my opinion, every single one of you is a unique living being, an eternal source of indestructible life energy, briefly having a human experience. That experience has allowed us to manifest as a son, as a daughter of someone, as a mother or a father of precious young kids. It has allowed us to manifest as unique individuals characterized by innate love and the infinite potential to be kind, good, and compassionate. Be the best version of yourself. As a university graduate, you belong to a privileged few. You are 7 out of every 100 people in this world, and in South Africa, about 6 out of every 100 people. In fact, as a PhD graduate, you are 1 out of every 100 people in this world. You are indeed a member of a very privileged community. To whom much is given, much will be required, says the good book. Which brings me to the second question. Why am I here? What is my purpose? Maslow describes that what motivates us, and we learn Maslow, but Maslow only focuses on our selfish, egotistical needs, the pinnacle of which is self-actualization. Maslow, unfortunately, important though it may be to help us understand what motivates us, is a model or a mindset of consumption. And we need to replace that with a mental model of contribution. Because how much is enough? How much is enough? Let me ask you, what difference do you want to make in the world? Franklin often refers to Friedrich Nietzsche's words, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow." Mandela was clear in what difference he wanted to make. Personally, from a young age, I was privileged to have clarity of the purpose of my life. I have no doubt about why I am here. Simply to be a blessing. Nothing more grander than that. Now that you've been successful in your own academic pursuit, even more importantly, achieving the pinnacle of academic studies, as outstanding scholars, I leave you with these questions and ask you to be absolutely clear when you answer the question, who am I and why am I here? Because your talent, divinely given talent, and the access and opportunity to learn is the gift of the universe to you. What you will do with this achievement is your gift to the universe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm sure you all feel inspired by that. I heard many of the reactions, but it really dovetails with both what Prof. Anderson and Prof. Kisveta have said, and that is about purpose. Today, the purpose is to recognize and to congratulate each and every one of you. When I do my closing, I will speak about, unbeknownst to me, what the two of them would speak about. I'm actually speaking about the purpose of a university and the purpose of a doctorate. So tonight, that question is all about purpose. But every single one of you had a purpose statement or a problem statement that you delved into, explored, and really, really applied your mind to so that you could discover new knowledge, that you could share this gift of yourself with the world. So tonight really is about celebrating who you are, and that is a doctoral graduate this evening. And then you can ponder on Commissioner Kisveta's challenge to you of asking who you are and why you are here more deeply, because a piece of paper doesn't mean anything hung on a wall. It's what you do with that piece of paper and how you contribute with that piece of paper that actually makes you a doctoral student in terms of to the world. So Prof. Anderson said, if we don't give globally, we should go back to our thesis. Prof. Kisveta spoke to the fact that if you don't know the purpose, you should go back to solving that. So I say to each and every one of you this evening, when that paper goes up on your wall and that title is awarded to you, ask yourself, what is my purpose with this piece of paper? What am I going to do to influence the co-creation of humane and sustainable societies with what I have researched? And if you cannot find that within yourself, as you've been advised by the two avid scholars, we should reflect and self-reflect. And the reality is that is what it is like to be a lifelong learner, that we continually evolve and probe and look into things. And we use what we've learned here and what we've learned in all our studies as the basis or the springboard off which we jump. So tonight, I am honored to be able to celebrate with you, to celebrate with your families, and it is now that time when we confer you with your qualification. So what will happen now is I will request permission from the chairperson of Senate to grant me permission to be able to call you up to graduate. When I call your name, you will come up and stand here to my side, after which your video will play over there, and all those that have joined online will also be able to see exactly what you are seeing. They've got the duplicate view to those seated. Over and above that, please take your time, sing and celebrate, because we want your photos to feel beautiful, happy moments for you to remember. You can choose to keep your mask on or off, Those sitting on stage have their masks, I think, Prof. Klopper, because I'm going to call you up to stand. So you are welcome to take yours off as you wish. So I'm going to now request that Prof. Klopper please stand, and Dr. Deploy-Cilliers to please get the mace. You will be maced this evening by the chairperson of Senate. She is gentle, do not worry. And then Prof. Anderson and Mr. Motsiloa will also congratulate you as you get your qualification this evening. And so I say, chairperson, I request you to confer the qualification Doctor of Management in Technology and Innovation on the candidates I present to you. Thank you for granting me permission. So our first candidate is going to be Ronel Burger. Ronel's thesis title is Assessing Leadership Characteristics and Styles of Heads in Private Schools in South Africa. Ronel's supervisor is Dr. S. Lloyd. Congratulations, Ronel Burger. We will now play Ronel's video, after which she will grace us on the stage.
I think for me the main objective was to actually find a solution for the exploding private education market, where there are so many heads that are required to fill the posts of these important schools that play a huge role in our educational milieu. One of the things I wanted to ascertain is what would make a head really successful. And in order to do that, what we did is we really analysed the characteristics and the traits of very successful heads to see if we could find a common denominator. So I think that was the main thing. It would assist us going forward as employers. When we do interviews, I hope that my study could contribute to making better choices. I think the TIPS framework is particularly good and suitable for business. For my study in particular, I think I didn't so much concentrate on technology, although the technology was used in the collection of the data. The people, the P, was for me the most important one, because it is about people, education is about students, parents, and teachers. So people is the one that stood out for me. Although I couldn't find a model, exact model that one could use for an employer to interview and to find the best candidate, I think it would go a long way, because we use the head, hands and hearts model. And if nothing else, we ascertained that no one could be successful in this market without being driven by the heart. I think the contribution that my study made is maybe not major for Da Vinci, that is more a business school, but for my company and my market that we deal in, I think it's got a huge contribution, because the financial implications of starting a private school is major. And you can't always just appoint a good educator or a great head that might come from a government school, but there are other characteristics that are required to make a success. And I think we've highlighted them, and it should make a huge difference to employers going forward. I hope so.
I introduce to you Ronel Burger. Ronel, I certainly think as you walk across the stage and stand here, you have certainly contributed to the private school sector as a person, and now through your studies over many, many years. I look forward to seeing many private principals and heads of schools appointed using your characteristics that you have identified, and to many successful years. To you and your family, I congratulate Dr. Ronel Burger. Under the supervision of Dr. S. Lloyd, we congratulate both student and supervisor. Congratulations, Dr. Burger. Our next student who will be making her way up is Cornelia Carol September. I know she prefers to be called Connie, and so her thesis title is Public Funding of the College Sector, a Social Return on Investment in Higher Education in South Africa. Her supervisor was Professor P. Singh, and her co-supervisor was Dr. S. Lloyd, who's on the carpet match this evening. And so we now hear from Connie September in her video.
So my study really dealt with the funding that government has set aside, especially in the public colleges. And the objective was then to see whether the funding that the government has set aside, whether there are any demonstrable social return on investment that have been and are being received from the fund. And then secondly was obviously to see whether there are any social value that derive out of the funding that is set aside. The TIPS framework helped to make sure that you make the connection of a social value through the technology aspect, through the people's factor, and the people's factor in the public colleges is quite an important one to see how they can be merged together to make sure that there is some system thinking amongst them also. And as you integrate and you deal with the technology, you deal with the innovation, which is an absolute part of making sure that the social value that you derive out of the funding, that this innovation can stretch as far as to the benefit of the students. So for example, new technologies, great innovation, agility out of the funding, make sure that the kind of just equipment, tools, the kind of machinery that students require to use in the college, the public college sector, change and must change. And so the TIPS framework attacks the managerial, the leadership, and the recipient, which are society and students in that. Governments do not necessarily look at profits, but in this instance, the achievement was that a social return on investment, the value base, the absolute importance of what was achieved then in the study was to say that it is important for the public sector to undertake a social return of investment measurement.
I introduced you Cornelia Carol September. Connie, I certainly agree that public funding, you can carry on. You told me you're going to sing and dance, so I'm waiting. I certainly agree that public funding and looking into SROI in this very important space and looking at it both in an innovative and a systemic way is certainly critical to the endeavor. I think I'm confusing everyone by speaking, so I'll wait till she smiled for her photo. I truly believe that what you've contributed to society, both in your career as well as through your study, is something that we are going to see better the college sector and the TVET sector in particular, a very important cog in the wheel of our education system. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Dr. Cornelia Carol September. Supervised by Prof. P. Singh and Dr. S. Lloyd. Congratulations, Dr. September. I'm going to ask our people standing on stage if you could sit down until the student walks across. It's just that that screen is being slightly obscured, and I just think it would be easier. And because I do have a break now, because we're going to shift qualifications, we have 2 doctoral degrees, and so this one is a new one, so I'm going to request you, Chair. Chairperson, I request you to confer the qualification Doctor of Philosophy in the Management of Technology and Innovation on the candidates I present to you. I see a big smile because our first candidate is Ntombi Zodwa Mhlangwani. Congratulations. Come and stand here as I read your thesis. Her thesis title was A Leadership Framework for Implementing Fundamental Change During the Fourth Industrial Revolution at a local subsidiary of a multinational consulting organization. She was supervised by Dr. G. Thaver, and she was co-supervised by Dr. N. Roll. Congratulations. Ntombi Zodwa, we are now going to hear what you have to say about your study on the video before you.
My study was actually inspired by a challenge I found in my organization. I work for a consulting organization called Accenture in South Africa, and when I joined the organization, there was a lot of discussion around innovation, technology, changes brought about by the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and I thought I could see leaders were struggling with how do they evolve to be able to lead in the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So my study was about building a framework for leadership to help the leaders in my organization respond to the challenges brought by the Fourth Industrial Revolution. TIPS integrates well with my leadership framework for the Fourth Industrial Revolution because there is an alignment in terms of understanding the roles that leaders need to embrace. There's an alignment between my Fourth Industrial Revolution model and the TIPS model. They work side by side to each other. But most important, I also looked at the definitions and the behaviors that leaders need to embrace and let go of in order to be a future relevant and also to be future proof as a leader. And TIPS model, leadership model, alongside my Fourth Industrial Revolution model work well alongside each other, and you can see they complement each other. And the beauty about the TIPS model and my leadership model is that as the country grows, as industries change, those models are going to be evolved and they will be built on. So there's a possibility for an extension when we look at what happens in the next revolution, the fifth revolution, the next revolution after that. Those models are going to continue to grow, learn, and leaders also need to unlearn, relearn, and try again to be relevant for the future. I'm proud of the fact that for my study, I built a methodology to verify a leadership framework. And this framework will obviously lead to leadership models in future as well. So my contribution to the world, really to South Africa, to Da Vinci, to my fellow PhD students as well, is being able to bring a methodology that can be verified for organizations to see the level of compliance within their various organizations.
I introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, Ntombi Zodwa Mshangwani. Congratulations. I also congratulate your supervisors, Dr. Thaver and Dr. Roll, on the supervision process. It is indeed exciting to see a student co-creating alongside TIPS. So, Ntombi, we look so forward to seeing it evolve in the fifth industrial revolution and many to come, as you publish and flourish on this leadership framework. And we do indeed look forward to seeing it, as you said, evolve alongside TIPS. I think you have certainly contributed to the management of technology, innovation, and people in a systemic way, and we really do look forward to seeing it implemented both in your organization and outside as your gift to the world. I introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ntombi Zodwa Mshangwani. Congratulations. Congratulations to you and to the whole Mshangwani family on this remarkable achievement. Well done, congratulations. And thank you for that ululation. It was most joyful, and we do encourage everyone to do your own beat and song. So now I call up Bongani June Mwale. As Bongani comes up, as the last time as a mister, His thesis title is The Success of Business Incubation Support Among Small, Medium and Micro Enterprises in the South African Tourism Sector. His supervisor was Dr. B. Nyamkure. Congratulations to you and your supervisor as we hear your live recording.
The mainstay aim of the study was to assess the importance and effectiveness of business incubation services offered to the tourism SMMEs in South Africa. The integration of the TIPS framework suggests that there are benefits for the business incubation services. For an example, the study was looking at various variables, variable infrastructure, variable marketing, variable training, variable finance, variable innovation. From the innovation side, then it suggests that you will link your innovation to your systems, and for if variable infrastructure is also linked to the technology, because infrastructure today comes with technological enhancement. SIFs and TIPS then got married because there's no way you could then implement certain variables without looking at what TIPS provide to enhance that particular variable. The main accomplishment for me is in two fronts. One is the development of the SMME incubation sustainable framework, which is already being adopted by various incubation centers. And the second one is that the SIFs, as it were, is innovative and speaks to the South African market to an extent that it addresses the shortcomings that are there in the current frameworks that are used. The industry will benefit from the sustainability of SMMEs if they adopt the SIFs framework, and ultimately, from the societal point of view, the sustained SMMEs will enable job creation, but also they must ultimately contribute positively to the GDP of the country.
Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Bongani June Mwale. Congratulations. You see, Bongani, I didn't have to say anything, but what I did want to say was your study certainly contributes to what Prof. Anderson speaks to of innovation management. If we get incubation right, and we really get it right, we can really make a difference. You didn't give me time to introduce you. You're rushing off. So now I want to hear it loud and clear, because I'm going to introduce to you to Dr. Bongani June Mwale. Congratulations. He seems to be very shy, so I will wait for all of you to shout out when I say his name later on. Okay, our next doctoral candidate that we introduce to you is Nompulelo. Where's Nompulelo? Yolan Nkabinde. Nompulelo's thesis title is Designing a Framework to Improve the Effectiveness of Human Resources in Organizations, under the supervision of Dr. P. Pampelis. We are now going to hear Nompulelo's recording.
My study was aimed at developing a framework that would help organizations improve the effectiveness of their HR functions, with a history of HR not having been perceived as a strategic role player and only being perceived as an administrator. So the idea was to move away from that perception. My study was founded or grounded on a systems thinking approach. where in looking at HR, I did not look at HR as a standalone function, but HR is part of a bigger system, which is the organizational system. Hence, the framework looked at, for instance, what would the change in the focus for HR or how HR is organized impact the organizational performance. There's a number of other areas where the systems and approach is entrenched to demonstrate the role that HR plays in the organization and how it impacts the organizational performance as a whole. The contributions of the study were at different levels. I think of myself coming from a community as a young female wanting to join HR, but there wasn't any framework or frame of reference that I could go to and understand what the role of HR was. So the value proposition for HR has always been around, I like people. But what this framework has done is to demonstrate to young upcoming professionals as well as HR professionals who are currently within the HR space that HR is really about contributing towards the performance of the organization through leveraging people. I'm hoping this study will help Da Vinci be able to identify or point out the value that HR can bring within organizations. And at an organizational level, the study also indicates or directs the leadership of organizations about the need to create the space for HR to add the value that it is capable of adding, because it is not sufficient just to appoint an HR executive and say, we are putting HR at a strategic level when you don't give them the space to add the value that they should be adding to the organizations.
I introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, Nompumelelo Yolin Nkabinde. Congratulations. I want to say to you that if you look at the TIPS managerial leadership framework and you see the I and the P at the bottom, it speaks a lot to the fact that if you engage your people, you will be able to really harness innovation. I think that being and speaking to strategic HR management as not just being a name, but rather a practice and a competence is something that can really contribute to the sector in which you are. So I will say to you, as you said, as a young girl, I will say that young girl is now a lady in red, who I'm now going to address as Dr. Nompumelelo Yolin Nkabinde. Congratulations. Dr. Nkabinde, we congratulate you and your supervisor, Dr. P. Pampelis. I would now like to call up David Nkwana. You're very quiet getting up, David. David's thesis title is Towards the Creation of a Learning Organization in a South African Parastatal and Exploratory Study. He was supervised by Dr. Al Chipunza. We are now going to hear from David as he gives us his account of his studies.
The aim of my study was to establish the current learning development objective and approaches of the state-owned company, and then establish gaps and see how those gaps can be closed by establishing more of the most modern approaches and more working approaches of learning and development in an organization. White work indeed. With technology, I looked into how they can apply technology to implement learning and development programs, other than applying the old methods of HRD. And also on the issue of information, it's important that information is managed in a way that it can be accessible to everyone, disseminated as such, and also people can access that. And also people need to be developed also very as part of the production factors, so that they can be developed accordingly and put the organization to a higher level. It's very crucial. And on the issue of the systems, since it can be either manual or automated as well, it's very important as well that the organization look into systems, see how they can leverage the operations in the organization, and as well as everyone else to look at things in a systems, if I may say, thinking that is looking at things in a whole. A lot indeed, but just in a nutshell, I would say developing approaches of learning, a variety of them, taking into consideration the issue of better technology, information, and like I've mentioned earlier with the issues of systems that can assist with the re-engineering of processes. But that learning can be a way of life in an organization whereby there's no need to wait for a sitting in a workshop, but rather make a provision to create learning opportunities at every activity of the organization. As people solve problems, learning takes place. As they apply their functional activities, learning takes place. So a variety of activities on a daily basis, on a continuous basis, there must be learning that's taking place, and it must be shared freely.
Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you David Nkwana, and we congratulate you, David, and your supervisor, Dr. Chipunza. I was in many of the doctoral oral defenses, either as an observer on the panel. And David, I think learning organizations are critical to all parts of the sector, but particularly I think as parastatals, that will certainly add a contribution. And we look forward to seeing the management of technology, innovation, and people systemically aligned to learning organizations and you taking it out into the world for us. So ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you very soon, let me pause, David Nkwana, now Dr. David Nkwana. Congratulations. Congratulations to you and your family on this achievement, as well as those that you impact in your organization. Now I introduce to you Tadi Daniel Rampai. Good to see you, Integrity Commissioner. We've got two commissioners in the house this evening. The role of the Integrity Commissioner, a systems approach in the City of Johannesburg Metropolitan Municipality, was Tadi's thesis title under the supervision of Professor P. Singh. Tadi, I look forward to everyone else seeing your contribution here.
The study was to investigate the role of the Office of the Integrity Commissioner or the Integrity Commissioner in the City of Johannesburg. And the reason for that is because the Integrity Commissioner is a novelty in the South African local government sector. So to make this novelty a reality, the study sought to develop an implementable framework for the governance of ethics and ethics of governance within the municipality. Oh yes, because it was geared towards the behavior of councillors and what they need to do in ensuring that the residents' needs, legitimate interests are met, it was important to bring together a framework that would draw the relationship or interdependence and combined effectiveness of council as well as the Integrity Commissioner in ensuring that the interests of the citizens, of the residents of the City of Johannesburg are catered for and are met. My view has always been that the role of the Integrity Commissioner was never understood in the City of Johannesburg. And the study sought to analyze the role, which comprises of three components. One being why, which denotes the purpose of the Integrity Commissioner, and what, which denotes the functions, and how, which denotes the values and principles that govern how the Integrity Commissioner performs his functions. There's always been a perception of the Integrity Commissioner being seen in terms of what he does, not in terms of why he does what he does. So there should be a shift in focus of councillor to see the Integrity Commissioner as an accountability officer, with a view to holding them accountable in terms of what they do as public representatives. With the City of Johannesburg, the City of Johannesburg is going to benefit in the sense that the framework is going to ensure that corruption is contained and ethics and integrity are stimulated within the City of Johannesburg. Personally, I am a better Integrity Commissioner, well equipped to ensure that I'm capable and able in the execution of my functions as the Integrity Commissioner.
I introduce to you Tari Daniel Rampai. So you see, I don't forget anything, and you promised me in your oral defense that this can be applied to multiple metropolitans, and that's what you hope to see. So, Commissioner of the South African Revenue Services, the Integrity Commissioner has said that this can be applied outside of the city of Johannesburg. So I hope we'll get some funding from SARS, and you can hopefully utilize your study outside. But on a serious note, Tari, I think it really is something that we hope to see in across the country and globally as well, because I think we've often discussed about metropolitans, and as long as they can be better run, it will serve the people better. So I look forward to seeing you keep your promise to me and extending your study, and I shall now keep my promise to you, where I said you will be conferred. And so I introduce to you Dr. Tari Daniel Rampai. Dr. Rampai, we congratulate you for what you do for integrity in our city here of Johannesburg, and we congratulate you on getting your doctorate this evening. Congratulations. Christo, I don't know if I should refer to you as doctor before. So the reason that Dr. Christo Abraham Skeepers is wearing his coat, even though he's not here, he's red on. This is his second doctoral degree that he is obtaining. And so I will call you for now, Christo, just to keep to tradition. But he hasn't been able to join us physically, so he's joining us virtually. You will see his face up on the screen there. His thesis title was Creating an Entrepreneurship Framework to Stimulate Employment Creation in the South African Healthcare Industry. His supervisor was Professor M.D. Harold. I would now like to play you Christo's video.
The aim of the study was to create an entrepreneurship framework to stimulate employment creation in the South African healthcare industry, specifically by retaining complementary healthcare professionals through the provision of alternatives to the closure of private practices and them exiting their professions, the allied healthcare sector and the South African healthcare industry. The integration of the TIPS framework in the study was directly relating to the entrepreneurship framework that was presented at the end, where we looked at the different areas of technology, innovation, people and systems. Since the healthcare industry, the allied healthcare sector in that industry is systems or systems interlinking with each other, directly influencing the complementary healthcare professionals as people, how they include technology in their workspaces. But the framework specifically looked at innovation and how to stimulate the innovation of complementary healthcare professionals. So with some practical advice and practical steps made in the conclusions and recommendations of the study, hopefully that will help the industry in the right direction and possibly retain more complementary healthcare professionals in the field that has a great need for assistance and for dealing with the overall majority of the South African population's need for healthcare services. Overall, for me, the PhD was a long journey. I've discovered more about myself in the process, and it was just interesting that I had exactly the same supervisor, which is Professor Marius Harold, that I had when I did the doctoral degree previously. So even in that sense, it felt to me like a process of restoration where I've done a qualification and I had to redo a qualification, if you can put it like that, in order to continue supervising master's degree students that I'm doing, and which is something that I love to do.
I introduce to you Christo Abraham Skeepers. I don't know if I should say congratulations to Prof. Harold for putting up with you twice or you putting up with him twice, but we congratulate Prof. Harold as well. And I think having sat also on your oral defences as one of the people there, I really think transdisciplinarity came through very strongly in your study. And I do believe that the allied health workers across the board were quite heavily impacted at times by COVID, which you also looked at and added in as a last-minute addition to your study, which I think showed its agility. But an entrepreneurship framework is something very interesting because entrepreneurship is something, when you ask people how to teach entrepreneurship, entrepreneurs will tell you throw the book out the window. So I look forward to seeing the implementation of your framework within the sector, and I know you have already implemented it with multiple allied healthcare workers, in particular, I think, chiropractors. And so I congratulate you, Dr. Christo Abraham Skeepers. Congratulations. So you are virtually being kept here, but because it is part of a congregation which is lawfully gathered, once it dissolves, even though you are virtually joining us, everyone in the program, as well as those joining virtually, will all be graduated at the end of this evening. So thank you for joining us online. I now say, they sometimes say we save the best for last, but in doctoral graduations, you're all at the pinnacle, so you are all the best. But Giselle Cindy Williams is our last candidate coming up this evening. And so I will say welcome to you as our last doctoral candidate. Your thesis title, A Conceptual Framework for Developing Leadership Capability Within Organizations in the Digital Era, under the supervision of Dr. G. van Rensburg. We will now hear from Giselle on her views on her study.
So the main objective of the study was to develop a conceptual framework for leadership capability within organizations in this new digital world of work. The TIPS framework, I battle answering that question because I feel like the entire study is TIPS. So when people ask me how did I integrate TIPS into the study, I battle because it is about technology. It is all about innovation. It is all about people, and it's all about systems. And it's the integration of these four variables that come together in order to make the leader capable and effective and able to thrive in this new digital era. The main contribution, I would say, to new knowledge is the fact that is this conceptual framework that was developed ultimately, and the developmental approach that emerged is this very much about leadership development being from the inside out. So the development of the leader happens from the inside out. It happens from a deep level of self-awareness, and then through that sense of self-awareness, the leader develops a new set of mindsets, a new set of perspectives, and a new skill set for this digital era. And so as a result, the mindsets, the perspectives, and the skills is the key contribution to knowledge. Because it's only through developing these new mindsets, perspectives, and skills that the leader is able to develop and build on the capabilities that are required. So to Da Vinci, it certainly is going to be useful, I think, for a lot of students that are doing research in the context of the digital era. For industry, there are already great beneficiaries of the study. So for example, my business partner and I have built a company around the study. So the study has given rise to our business, and we are able to, as a result, we're able to assist leaders, CEOs, HR practitioners in their development of their leadership programs.
What a beautiful example indeed of both entrepreneurship as well as the development of leadership capabilities through your framework. I introduce to you Giselle Cindy Williams. Congratulations. Giselle, you certainly spoke to Prof. Anderson in my heart when you said that your whole study is tips, because for us it is holistic and it is about holism. And by you looking at the self-awareness of an individual, as well as them needing to co-create new mindsets, in an age that is digital, which means very transformative, very fast-paced and fast-moving, is something that I really do believe will contribute to the better development of people, but not only as managers, but also their own self-awareness, which is a critical aspect of managerial leadership. So ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Dr. Giselle Cindy Williams. Congratulations. So now we always serenade our doctoral students. Well, now you're doctoral alumni. So we always serenade you, and for the last 2 years we haven't been able to because of COVID. And this year we are absolutely thrilled to have the Josie Opera live, that they will be able to serenade you with God Bless Africa. So I want to say to Dr. Berger, Dr. September, Dr. Mangwani, Dr. Mwale, Dr. Nkambinde, Dr. Nkwana, Dr. Rampai, Dr. Skippers, and Dr. Williams. I said it slowly this time so you can listen to your name being called out. I know it's unfamiliar at this stage. I say to each of you, congratulations, and may you be serenaded by the Josie Opera singing God Bless Africa.
Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her. Give a thought to Africa, and let us think of her.
is for us to hear your voices, and we look forward to hearing you a little bit later. We are now going to close off the ceremony, but before we do, I would like to deliver, I get the honor every year of being able to, before I call Dr. de Ployseliers up, to say a closing word to each of you. So I would like to ask you to please close your eyes and think of a galaxy, and when you open your eyes, there will be a galaxy on your screens. So close your eyes now, and I'm going to say, try picture splashes of dark across the night sky, a shot of light, and perhaps a twinkle here and there. That twinkle is you, Dr. Berger, Dr. September, Dr. Mangwani, Dr. Mwale, Dr. Nkabinde, Dr. Nkwana, Dr. Rampai, Dr. Skeepers, and Dr. Williams. Because you have pursued a daring adventure, you can open your eyes and see the galaxy before you, and you are indeed one of those shining stars up on the screen. At Da Vinci, every one of our students and alumni become part of our Da Vinci galaxy. We watch with absolute joy as each and every one of you creates your very own constellation. If you look very carefully into some of the stars there, and if you look inside your graduation handbooks in front of you, you will see the remarkable purple cow there. But if you look inside your graduation handbook, we have plotted a star, a set of stars to make a constellation that says 2, 2. And it's plotted against real stars in this galaxy, and that is to represent our class of 2022, which you now form part of and are the doctors of that specific class. So your Da Vinci constellation may look like 2 2s, but as Prof. Kisveta said earlier, you need to ask yourself, who am I and why am I here? And it is that unique constellation that you will form that for us is going to forever be part of our Da Vinci galaxy. No matter where you go in the world and no matter where you are, whether your feet are on the dusty streets of a village somewhere where you are busy doing life-saving changes for communities, or your feet are in the beautiful Bahamas, or they are situated on your very carpet living room, it doesn't matter. We want to remind you that we all look up at the very same night sky. And Da Vinci will always be your academic home, and you will always be welcome here. The campus is open 24/7, and you are welcome to pop in for a delicious cup of coffee, to get out of the rain, to come read in the library, to sit with us, or just merely to communicate alongside us. Our alumni make us who we are. As they say in African culture, Ubuntu. I am because we are. Da Vinci is because you are. And for us, when you go out there and make your continued mark on the world as already managerial leaders, but ones that are now equipped with your doctoral degrees, we hope that you will stay in touch with us. We hope that you will stay alongside us, that you will come back and supervise, that you will come and join us for our multiple events, and that you will share your knowledge and your gift and your talent. As both Prof. Anderson and Kisveta have said, this is a gift and it is a talent that you have here. So I'm going to be a bit mode 2-ish and ask you for the last time to be super mode 2 at graduation, but you are mode 2 learners, so you're going to be them for the rest of your lives. So to ask you, if I were to say to you today, what is the purpose of a university? You can shout out, what would you say the purpose of a university is, or an institute of higher learning? Anyone? New knowledge, yes? Tombi, thank you. Application of new knowledge. Anyone else? Self-discovery. I love that one. That's my favorite. Self-discovery. Anything else? Innovation. Society. Yes? Sorry, I didn't hear you. Was it Giselle? Contribute to society. To get the title doctor. So you are all correct, and none of you are wrong. The purpose of a university is to co-create all these things and many more. But if you look historically at the original purpose, it was about knowledge discovery and knowledge dissemination. The dissemination wasn't as good in those days, but the reality was it was about an innate curiosity to discover something new and to part knowledge. Many students come to institutes of higher learning and they gain much knowledge. You have created knowledge, and that is indeed a remarkable achievement. If you look at the purpose of a doctorate, you will say to yourself, what is the purpose? One of them is to create new knowledge, to contribute new knowledge to your discipline, to your field. And one of the other purposes of a doctoral degree is to advance knowledge within a certain sector and subsector. If I look at studies, Dr. Berger, yours, you transcend between education and business. You look at all the different aspects, TVET colleges and business, Integrity Commissioner, the municipalities related to things. I know we looked a lot into legal stuff connected to business. Each and every one of your studies has multiple facets that you contribute. And so today I said I was doing a bit of Latin, and so I'm just only looking down to say the word because I think I'll get it wrong, and that is licentia docendi. I know the shortened version, which is docere, which is the Latin for doctorate. Do any of you know what it actually stands for? The Latin of doctorate. Okay, so the root derivative of the word doctorate is from Latin, and it means to teach or being given a teaching license. Now that shows that you have not only been given the title, as you definitely have, but the responsibility to be able to teach others what you have learned, to share your knowledge, to influence sustainable, humane societies with your power and knowledge that you now have equipped in those red hats and red capes. I always say that heroes don different things, and you will hopefully be heroes that don red capes to educate multiple communities, multiple industries, and you will continue to shine your beautiful, magnificent, glowing stars high up in the Da Vinci galaxy for many years to come by doing as Prof. Anderson says, and continually evolving your study, your contribution, and yourself as a lifelong learner. And also never forgetting to ask the question that Prof. Kisveta said, which is, who am I and why am I here? So I want to end off by saying, never forget your purpose, the purpose of your qualification or having purpose in your life. I purposefully looked down at those words because I jotted them down on a piece of paper before I even heard either of our speakers speak. And that says something very important. At this stage, we're looking towards purpose and having purpose. Many of us are going to go through multiple changes in our lives, whether it's at times of retirement, times of rejoice, times of sadness, but every single time it gives us the opportunity to be that phoenix rising from the ashes and being able to reinvent and repurpose ourselves. For you, my doctoral students, are agile, aligned, and engaged managerial leaders who are able to continually evolve, co-create, and cooperate to influence the co-creation of humane, sustainable societies. Congratulations to each and every one of you. I now call on our chairperson of the Senate to dissolve this congregation.
As the chair of the Senate of the Da Vinci Institute for Technology Management, I hereby dissolve this congregation for the Da Vinci Institute for Technology Management. Thank you.
Now that the academic boss has spoken and it is dissolved, I can be unruly and say to you before we sing the national anthem that I'm going to, for the very last time, say your names and then ask everybody to shout, scream, ululate, and rejoice. Ladies and gentlemen, our newest remarkable stars in the Da Vinci galaxy are Dr. Berger, Dr. September, Dr. Mangwani, Dr. Mwale, Dr. Nkabinde, Dr. Nkwana, Dr. Rampai, Dr. Skierpers online, and Dr. Williams. Let's hear it. Woo! Congratulations. Okay, so I now ask you to please all rise for the national anthem and of the Republic of South Africa. We are aware that many of you come from different parts of the world and different countries even, but we sing the national anthem of South Africa because our qualifications are registered and accredited in South Africa. Rather, let me say our institution is registered and our qualifications accredited in South Africa. And our Da Vinci home ship is here on the soil of Modderfontein in Johannesburg. And so we sing the national anthem, after which the procession will leave. And you are then invited to join the Commissioner of the South African Revenue Services and the President of the Da Vinci Institute, Professor Kisveta, outside for your award handing ceremony where we will be giving you a gift and also to have some snacks and drinks alongside your family so we can celebrate. We will now sing the national anthem. Academic procession will leave to Guardiamus and meet you outside.
Esto
Could we please ask all the doctoral alumni to join us over here on the purple couch in front right here with Professor Anderson and Commissioner Kisveta in the front over here. Oh, and Dr. Franzel and Professor Klopper. That side, Dr. Deploy Saliers and Prof. Klopper. So we're waiting for you over here, all the doctoral students. Are you wanting to take individual ones? Okay. Well, you should say Da Vinci because it actually makes you smile. Well, today it does. Just to let all of you know, when these photos are released, Mompati is responsible for sending you all the links so that you have it. Thanks. Anyone want individual photos before everyone speaks? continue to mingle, to eat, and to enjoy. Okay, you can take. Are we still busy with individuals? Okay. I know it's getting a little chilly, but we've just got the last of the proceedings, so please keep eating, drinking, and being merry. But this part of our evening is very important to us because it is the time when we basically get to hand over a small gift to each of you. We hear from the President of the Institute, Commissioner Kisveta, as well as from Prof. Anderson. So we are indeed looking forward to our address. So I'm starting with you, Commissioner. I can see you deep in conversation, so I'm sorry to be rude and interrupt Dr. September and you. I want to start off by saying that for us at Da Vinci, it is always a treat that the President of the Institute comes to this function. When he joked earlier on and said that he can't manage his own calendar, I don't think people really understand how he is always willing to help communities, people. When people ask him to engage with them, most people would just say no. Professor Kisveta never says no to people to help them. The other thing about him that always strikes me is the way in which he will, and that was the perfect example now, he will engage in conversation with someone, and when he meets you again, he will remember you, remember the conversation, and he will actually always remember your face. And I always find that so personable about you, because for most people, they would consider someone in your position to be standoffish, but you are indeed the absolute opposite of that. But the thing I want to say, which I think is even deeper, is what is very important at Da Vinci, and that is about being an ecosystemic thinker. Those of you, you should all nod your heads. I see you all are, because you understand that the sum of the parts makes up the whole, that we have to view this world through multiple lenses. Our micro lens, which is the personal, the macro, the meso, and the exo. Every single thing plays a role within our ecosystem. And that is exactly what you do as you commission our country every single day, but also as a human being. You never stop reflecting on yourself. You always reflect on what is happening around the world and within our own country to protect multiple people and multiple societies. You always look towards being a kind and generous family man, and over and above that, you are an extreme gentleman. So we thank both your wife and son for joining us this evening. It is so nice to see you again after a very long time. And we say to Professor Commissioner Edward Kisveta, thank you for being our president and an example to our country. And we call you up to lastly address the graduates. Thank you.
Good evening. I always blush when this wonderful lady introduces me because I think she always oversells me. But if I ever become foolish enough and enter politics, I'll appoint you as my campaign manager, which means you're going to be unemployed for a very long time, because that's not about to happen. Thank you. When I walked in and listening to Professor Ben talk about innovation and the continuous evolution of thinking and the manifestation of that evolution through the world that we find ourselves in, I'm reminded that the only people who ever make progress are people who question the status quo. People who do not accept that things have to be the way they are, but they consider how things could be or even how they ought to be. Here and there, they're also quite lazy people. So, for example, the guy who invented the wheel must have just got tired of carrying this stuff around and eventually said there must be an easier way. And tonight, and I always say this to the graduates, tonight, in one way, is the pinnacle of a field and pursuit of study that recognizes your scholarly and academic excellence. But it would be sad if you thought this was the destination. This is only where the real work begins. You know, South African Revenue Service, I said I was wondering if I should share some of that with you. And I'll just share one or two of things, because I do think that, and by the way, when people tell me they hope that I restore SARS to its former glory, I tell them if we did that, we would be going backwards. Because the world has moved on since I left it in 2009, and certainly in the last decade. And so simply to restore that which was is not what inspires us. But let me give you some insight of what has happened over the last 15 or 16 years, and also in the last 3 years. And we forget about it. So in 2006, we had 4.3 million taxpayers that were registered as individual taxpayers, who filed as individual taxpayers. And 4 million of them would send us their return, having filled it out. You remember that thick booklet dissertation that you had to fill in? And attach 1 million documents to it, and you would either snail mail it to us or drop it in at one of our offices, and the average person would get the assessment results in 180 days. And no one complained. No one complained. Only 120 used a very elementary version of e-filing. And it was actually a fake e-filing, because it kind of went through an electronic portal and dropped on the other side. We printed it, and then it joined the other 4 million returns. You just didn't know about it. And so today, we have 7.3 million returns that are submitted. Only 340,000 we receive as paper. And when we receive it as paper, we terminate it right there by capturing it electronically in the branch. We don't accept your paper. Or we ask you, do you have your own device? And we'll convert you to an electronic filer right there. Just in the last 3 years, we were able to disintermediate 6 million branch visits in the way that we allow you to engage with us now. So 4 million to 7.3 million, 344,000 manually, terminated immediately. 4 million will use their mobile devices from anywhere in the world and submit their return. And then we have selected 3.5 million, and about 3 million of them have accepted what we call auto-assessment, which means you have to do nothing. Because our ambition is to make filing for individuals a non-event. We want to really send you a letter once a year to say thank you. Job done. And so we've now achieved that for over 3.5 million people. 3 million would have done that. 91% of them would get their assessment result in under 5 seconds from 180 days. Under 5 seconds, and if 2006 we would have promised you your refund if you were not selected for audit, and on average you would have received it in 50 days. Today, if you are not selected for a refund, you will receive your refund in under 72 hours. Why is this possible? First of all, because we have a restlessness about improving our engagement with the public. Our mental model is the best service is no service. No one wakes up in the morning and says, we can't wait to go to SARS. Or, I can't wait to call the call center. In fact, the only reason you ever have a relationship with us is because you are compelled to do so by law. And so we don't want a relationship with you. We just want your money. But we want the event of filing to be seamless, and we are well on our way to get there. And why is this possible? Because of innovation. Not incremental innovation, but disruptive innovation that brings about exponential improvement. And so in this filing season, we will obviously continue to improve that. But just think about that engagement. If we had told you in 2006 that we will assess you in under 5 seconds, you would have laughed us out of the room. Today, if you don't get it in 5 seconds, you become dissatisfied with us. And it started in a conversation in 2005, in a conversation where we sat around the table with myself, a few of my colleagues, and Commissioner Gordon at the time. And he asked each of us to give a vision for the future. And each one gave theirs, and I said that my vision for the future is that a taxpayer can sit anywhere in the world without anything and be able to complete their tax obligation, their filing obligation, to complete it in less than 5 minutes and to have an instant result. And today we are there. And so what I want every single one of you who are now doctoral experts over a field of expertise that you have chosen to ask, what is the disruptive and exponential change you want to bring in your field of expertise? How do you want to use what you know to improve the level of service, whether you're a public servant, as I am now, or you work for a private company? Ultimately, it is that difference we make that will transform the world into what we know is possible, and not be constrained by everything else that can depress us, which brings us back to those 2 fundamental questions. Be clear about who you are and why you are here. So that was the unprepared part of my speech, Professor Anderson. Thank you very much.
So I have a question for you, Commissioner. If you say no one wants to engage with SARS, then I don't know why they chose a commissioner who has a very charismatic personality and likes to be and is extremely charming, because the public don't then get to see that, but only shout at you. And that is really not a nice job to wake up to every day. We thank you for your words of wisdom as always. And I do really think there were 2 main points that I want to focus on out of that an impromptu presentation, and that is around disintermediation and the importance for Da Vinci of the mega trends. If you look at the mega trends currently that are out there, if you think of things like robotization, automation, digitization, disintermediation, etc., at Da Vinci we continually ask ourselves, what are we doing to influence these mega trends? And I think you've given us the perfect case study, Commissioner, to use. And Prof. Anderson, I think we should write a paper on how SARS did this, because it really is a brilliant example of disintermediation. We will credit you. Don't worry, Prof. But the truth is, it's a brilliant example of disintermediation. And it shows something else that's really important. When you go out there and you are applying your own thesis, your own study, or even just your workplace environments, please do not forget about the various lenses that you have been taught at Da Vinci and as a Da Vinci student. Never see the world in a limited and singular way. All those years ago, when Commissioner Kisveta was sitting there and had this pipe dream, people laughed at him in those years. But look where he is today, and look where SARS is today. And that proves to each and every one of us, your thesis can be actualized. And that is what we want to see, the impact of your study on the social return on investment, as well as the return on investment that each of you have contributed. So congratulations for laying that first brick, but we look forward to seeing the impact of your beautiful homes that you have built through your thesis. And now to recognize each of you and give you a gift on behalf of Vinci. I don't know where Prof. Klopper is. I saw him. Oh, there he is. So I always say about Prof. Klopper, it fascinates me how in every single oral defense or anything that he does, he always introduces people's families, who they are. He knows everything about them, and he really knows things about each and every one of our students. And I think that really shows one of the key characteristics of Da Vinci, which is that you all are unique to us, and each of you has your own voice. And so tonight, through Prof. Klopper, he's going to introduce you and provide you with our Words of Wisdom gift that is a personalized gift for every single doctoral student and has become a legacy at Da Vinci. We hope that you will continue to share your wisdom and always remember one thing, and that is that wisdom is something that is just within you unless you actually choose to share it. People never said a wise man was someone who was silent or a wise woman. It's someone who shares amongst people. So please remember to continue to share of yourselves and to share of your work. Prof. Klopper?
Thank you, Dr. Coonan. Congratulations to all the new doctors in the room this evening. I think you may give each other an applaud. So Prof. Anderson asked us, and I'm going to keep my speech short because it's all about you this evening. He asked us and he challenged us on innovation. And I want to say to Prof. Anderson, if I look at the studies, each of the students really embraced innovation. Each of them really embraced the creation of new knowledge. Prof. Kieswetter, you ask us, what have they done? It's in the studies, and to everybody, you can go and have a look on the website, read the theses. And the second question you ask is, who are they? And I'm here this evening to present each of the students to you and maybe share some facts that you don't know about the students on a lighter note. So Mpati, do you want to come and help me? Now, before I call the name out of the student, I would love you to, as you were listening this evening to the project, and we all form opinions about the students, to also try and guess who I'm speaking about. So this specific doctoral candidate are extremely passionate about what she does. I think when we look at the education of learners, she really carry that at heart. She dream about that, she worry about that, she nurture that. I got the impression she's always considering the big picture. And in doing that, if you don't have passion and you don't have a heart in her books, you will not make it in school. Dr. Berger? Yes, there's a photo there.
Thank you very much.
If I look at this doctoral, Dr. Rondi this evening, I think it's important to realize, or if you know her well, you would come to acknowledge the fact that if she gets silent and she take a breath and just get quiet for the moment, then her mind go, and then immediately she's in fifth gear. And she started thinking about a postdoc and this article and all of that. And I think what you don't know about her is that she really loved ballet. And that's something she wants to get back to. And in doing that, I also think the last I want to share with you, the red gown she wears this evening is not just any gown for her. It's a gown that she will pass on to her siblings, to other people in her family as they graduate. And I understand there's a long list. So, Dr. September, please come to the fore. There's the ballerina. So now you understand. The next candidate is a very active member of society. Wherever she goes, she always looks around her. She cares about other people, and she definitely don't sit still. She's very involved in the Rotary Club, and she's telling me if you're looking for in the next year, 2 years, yes, she will come to publish, but at the moment you need to go to the cradle on Saturday. She will either get her on a bike, which is either a road bike or mountain bike, but she's definitely going to take up cycling again. And it's an honor to me to say to her that, Mr. Samuel Mangwane, we're very proud of your family here, being here this evening. And I think if I listened to Ntombi carefully, she said to me, the fact that she's here this evening is due to a dad that continuously asks her, show me the qualification. What next? What do you do to learn? Dr. Mangwane, please come to the fore. We only have 5 left, so it becomes easier to guess. If I look at this gentleman, if I may give you a clue, if you hear him speaking about incubation, you really get excited and you can't stop him. So we struggled to do the recording this morning because the discussion were all around the incubation centers. He's also very proud, and I must say, look at what his study is doing. He's involved in the Ministerial Commission for Climate Change. And you will find him somewhere outside Johannesburg, training people at his college and making a big difference. Dr. Mohale, if you can come to the fore. And then your late brother, Dr. Mohale, would have been very proud this evening, I assume. This is the easy one. I'm not sure if you listen. I assume you all listen very carefully this evening. It's all about people, human resources. And when you spoke to this specific individual, you'll come to realize she's extremely passionate about the change in other people. For her, it's about making a difference, for empowering people, for mentoring them. And I say maybe it's enough to realize that HR is in her blood. Dr. Nkabinde. From a very small town there in the northern Natal, it's a privilege having you here tonight.
No, the sash.
No, no, it's just I'm not going to do that.
Yep, I'm coming.
It's not my...
Do you want me to hold it? Okay, thank you.
It's quite a coincidence. The next gentleman, it's all about people. And wherever I ask around and I speak to people, they say to me, he's a people's person. He really enjoyed the journey of the doctoral studies. He learned a lot. He appreciated every moment. And he definitely are not going to stop here. He's going to take it further. And for that, Dr. Nkuna.
Just 1 second. Just 1 second.
I must just choose my words very carefully, otherwise I give the clue away in the first sentence. So if you speak to this candidate, he will tell you the doctoral journey is very sweet. There's no sour in it. Very sweet in a sense that it presented new opportunities which he thoroughly enjoyed. I'm not sure if you know what I'm talking about. If you listen to his abstract this evening, he also said he's definitely going to revolutionize, and listen to the word revolutionize, the integrity landscape. Dr. Rampai. And as he walked down, I must also share with his family, he really appreciates the time that you allow him to do the studies. And he promised that he will now be giving you full attention and spend a lot of time with you, so you can hold him accountable for that. Now, this is probably the easiest one because he's the last candidate. So what I've learned this afternoon or this morning, her bags is packed. She don't own a car. She rented a house out. She started to study Spanish recently. Because as see next week, you're on the way to Spain, and your son Kalen is joining you, and you're going to take your business from South Africa to Europe. Dr. Williams. Thanks, Mola.
Thanks, Prof. Klopper. As I said, I hope this makes you remember that Da Vinci is your family. Family know all those embarrassing things about us, but they also know the best parts of us. So thank you for sharing the best parts of you, your lows and your highs. We understand this journey is a daunting one, and there are times when you do not like us, and there are times when you do. But we hope overall that you've each had a fulfilling journey, and it has helped you to reach a lifelong goal for yourselves, because I think that's the big thing about a doctorate. For most people, a doctorate is a personal journey of self-discovery and of knowledge production and knowledge creation. It is not necessarily just about a title or about a position in society. It is about a contribution to society. And so our last speaker is someone who needs little introduction, but I'll do what Prof. Klopper did, and I'll say, can you guess who it is? So at Da Vinci, we like to call him the fixer or the closer, and it is apt that he's closing today, because what does a fixer do? I mean, you should know, Dr. Rampai, in legal terms. A fixer comes in and takes the cases no one wants to do, deals with the problems no one wants to deal with, and tells you that if you don't listen to them, you won't get it right, and they are usually right. So, our founder of the Da Vinci Institute, Prof. Ben Anderson, is somebody who truly gets what we mean when we say influencing the co-creation of humane, sustainable societies. He spent his entire life truly trying to create sustainable societies through his contribution to individuals. I saw as each of you went up, many of you looked at him. I know he recruited many of you along the way. And I think that is what makes your magic, Prof. Anderson, that you really do care about each and every single student, whether it's someone on your farm or if it is someone here, everybody becomes part of your family. So the Anderson family is rather large and vast, But the other thing is that you are able to see the world through its multiplicity. You never ever see things singularly. For you, it is about looking through multiple lenses on a continual basis. And I think that is why the basis of the Da Vinci Institute Philosophy to Teaching and Learning is about our 7 lenses and expanding those lenses, one of which is TIPS. So we thank you for your contribution to each individual here today, but also to the Institute as a whole. And we look forward to you closing and being our closer this evening of the doctoral graduation ceremony of 2022. Thank you, Prof. Anderson.
Thank you very much, Marla. So I just want to share a few ideas around deconstruction and disintermediation. And I was wondering if you would allow me to contemplate the possibility that what all of us have done until today becomes irrelevant tomorrow, as much as we fall in love with what we've created. But I want you for a moment to just allow for a moment to consider that what we have created until today has got no meaning tomorrow. And the reason why is because I think if we want to be true to the notion of innovation, we should continuously consider to deconstruct and to disengage almost with what we've created until today. In our transition for me and Edward to create a bigger university context or a bigger higher education context, we are extremely excited about our engagement with Exeo Capital, of which one of the colleagues, Frick, is joined us tonight, and I'm very pleased for that. And why I want to go there is that I am really inviting Tombi, Connie, each of you to consider how could you assist us in deconstructing what Da Vinci is. How can you join hands with us going forward in breaking it down in as smaller parts as possible and to create something maybe totally different? Because I am fairly convinced that education as it is currently constructed is not solving what society needs. South Africa, as the rest of the world, but let's be particular to Africa, has got an amazing opportunity to bring new light and energy to the world stage. But it's not happening to the extent that is possible. So what are you and I going to do cooperatively to then recreate what education could be? And as a PhD myself, and for you as a PhD, maybe we will do away with PhDs. And Tommy?
It's okay, I'm already a doctor.
We worked so hard for it, but maybe we must do away with it. Maybe there's something different that we can consider, and we spoke at our engagement 2 weeks ago with Frick and said, what about the disintermediation of education? But what does that mean? And how can you, as a doctorandus, speak to that construct? What is the voice that you can bring to disintermediating education? Because in all honesty, as sentimental as we may be, it's not delivering the goods. We are a more broken society than before. We are a more lonely society than time gone by. So what are we going to do, and what can we do, and what is our intentions to work towards something novel, but ultimately something that will change and redistribute value? We don't have that answer yet. Globally, that answer doesn't exist. We see a repeat, and we are part of repeating. And I wish we can embrace the notion of deconstructing it and rethinking what the Creator has endowed us with, and to bring that to the front. We've heard snippets of it when we listened to Edward tonight, in how you have deconstructed and disintermediated. But we need to see that as a grand scale. But then we need you to step into that space and say, let's start the conversation. And let's free ourselves of all the sentiment that goes with where we come from, as much as we like it. That's my wish, and that's my invitation, because Da Vinci wants to be serious about redefining education. At whatever level, we must start somewhere. And I'm calling on all of you, wherever you will be in whatever part of the world, Giselle, I wish we can all link and just start this conversation. And that is my message and my call to you as fellow PhDs, and for whomever will be interested, because the answer will not just come from the PhD. Professor Harvey is involved in an amazing process, and Sushi and them and Franzel, with, as you may know, the young Professor Bari. I think he's 11 years now, 10, 11 years old. And in deconstructing mathematics as a program for kids in Africa, because he himself is still a kid, be it a professor. So at different levels, we would like to engage our network of alumni in particular in saying, let's give something new and really innovative to the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Anderson. And so we say with that, good night. We hope you feel inspired, and we hope that your next level of your journey is one as fulfilling as you wish for yourselves, because that really is the biggest trick in our lives, is to do things that we find purpose in and that we find passion in. So congratulations to each and every one of you. Just to let you know, the graduation was live streamed on YouTube, but the edited version, where we just take out any pauses, etc., is re-uploaded onto YouTube after the live, so that you can always go and access it on the Da Vinci YouTube channel. We also post on Facebook and encourage, and LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, etc., and we encourage you to share and tag us in any of your own personal celebrations of your achievement. And then at every doctoral graduation, we launch the research report for that 2022, which means the previous research. So next year at the doctoral graduations, your research will appear in the research report and any articles that you publish. So our 2022 research report is available on the Da Vinci website, and that will feature the doctoral graduates of 2021 and any publications the Institute had in 2021. Have a good evening, stay safe, and enjoy your celebrations. Congratulations once again. Thank you very much.